Marvel's Spider-Man is an intriguing and fascinating game, blending the open world genre as well as the action RPG and a non-linear genre well together. This game is developed by Insomniac Games, and you might recognize the studio as they are behind the hit series Ratchet and Clank, spanning decades at this point, as well as Spyro the Dragon in the early 2000s, as well as the highly anticipated Wolverine game. Now, in this particular video, I wanted to break it up into different parts, taking a look at the different areas that this game has going for it, like the story and open world. And with that being said, let's get on with it. What's especially interesting is the story. I find the story very compelling and has a nice flow to it. There are hints given throughout the story of upcoming content, like teasing upcoming characters as well as storylines. These storylines in particular can get a bit jumbled, I feel like, as well, because there's a lot of different characters that's introduced and quickly gotten rid of, especially with the Shocker fight. He is briefly introduced into the game, and you do fight him rather quickly when he's introduced, and an upcoming fight where he gets an upgrade as well, but his storyline is quickly ended, as well as there's a lot of mechanics introduced that don't really get the opportunity to shine, really. They are not really used a lot apart from the story content. There's the occasional spider robot controlling sections, which mainly gets used in side quests or in the later DLCs, which I'll get into. It would have been interesting to see these mechanics introduced in other areas, like the wall running action pack sequences that's mainly in the story. Now, I'm no game developer, so using these mechanics in other parts of the game might get tricky, but it could have been a very interesting idea to see it in other places as well. I feel like the overarching story is very well written. The villain of the story is very good. You get a very personal connection to him, with you getting to know his struggles, where he's coming from, his motivations, as well as determination for his character. You can empathize a lot with him. The reasonings behind his descent, I guess you could call it, is very believable. I feel like there's a lot of things that happen throughout the story that leads the villain to make the decision that they end up making. Most of all, I find the final arc very intriguing and engaging with the boss fights, especially with the cinematics that takes place. Now, for the next section, I've decided to call the overworld, and this part consists of three main areas that I wanted to take a look at, especially the exploration part of it, the collectibles, as well as the side quests. Now, for the exploration part, I wanted to take a moment to go through how the traversal feels in the game, as well as how the animations are, or how dynamic the exploration can get. And if we go into the gameplay, now I'm just sitting here. I have one of the suits on, which I'll also get into later on, but the feeling that I get from the game is that the traversal is very fun, it's entertaining. Oh, I just hit a light pole. It feels great, and there's fluidity in animations, in the input, and they tie together really great. The overworld feels big and expansive. There's a bunch of different activities that you can do, and apparently there's a crime going on. So why don't we go through that? There's a bunch of these different dynamics to do that happens in the world. So a lot of these different things happen in the world, which you can do and makes it feel much more engaging to do. This was a quick crime to do, or apparently not. There's a group of enemies, and these sort of crimes do happen quite a lot. So it makes it feel much better to do. Like if you just want to chill out and swing through the city, you can do all these different activities, and it's very engaging in my opinion. No, there's only one guy left. Okay, it's this guy. There we go. Oh, never mind. There we go. But particularly one thing that I want to comment on is the ability to do tricks. Now, particularly in this game, it's not really a focus of it, and it can get quite clunky. So you tend to not do a lot of different tricks because it takes a while for the animations to sort of end in a way. But with that being said, there are opportunities to, well, especially the traversal parts. Now, I did find a water tower here, and you do get the opportunity to swing through it, which is very cool. There's these water towers hidden in the world that you can swing through as well, and it's very cool. Now, with this open world, there's this very big map, and you get all these collectibles. Now, I have 100% of this game, so there's not really a lot for me to show at this point, but you get these opportunities to do photography around these different buildings that you can do, or shops as well, and as well as you can go look out for backpacks. Now, what's particularly interesting with these backpacks is that they give you the opportunity to explore more in depth the lore behind Spider-Man and Peter Parker. There's a lot of different things that are hinted at also in the story that you can actually get to know about if you collect all these different backpacks. Particularly, one thing that I'm talking about is, like, here you can see some of them, and especially with the dumplings recipe here, there are hints to it in the story of what happened, and you can actually get a lot from these backpacks. There's also collectibles like the pigeons, which actually comes from a side quest. So these are just fun little things that gives you a reason to explore, especially for those that don't live in the same setting here in New York. You get to experience the city as well through the game. Now, as I mentioned before, there are all these different suits, and you can change them around. Like, this is the original suit, this is a MK2 suit, this is the Stark suit from one of the movies, this is a Fear Itself suit, a Velocity suit. Like, there's a lot of different suits. The Resilient suits. Now we can just go with the normal one, but it gives you an opportunity to customize the character, even just a little bit. And also, another thing, if you go back again, there's all these different skills. There's the Innovator, which enhances specifically like combat. You can do like Wrecking Ball, where you can grab these brute enemies and throw them. There's the Defender, which helps you stay alive more, and if you do certain combinations, you'll, for example, get bonus focus, which can be used to heal or do all these finishes, as well as the Web Slinger, which improves the web slinging in particular. And this one is like the aerial tricks, which I didn't find very intriguing. There's the quick recovery, where if you roll, you can press A to do a sort of little jump. Now, for the side quest, I do find that these side quests are fun to do. As them being side quests, they aren't really as important. I feel like there's quite an extensive amount of them as well. There's a lot of side quests to do, as well as it introduces you to some of the citizens in the city, and it gives you a reason to do these quests as well, because it introduces you to all these characters that makes the city feel more alive. It introduces you to some, I want to call them minor characters, especially with a particular one named Tombstone. He is, in my opinion, a minor character because he isn't part of the main story like some of the other characters are, but there is a fun character arc with him. It also gives you the opportunity to just take a breather from the main story. Not that you really need it, but it's more chill in a way. Now, what we saw at the beginning of this section is that these crimes were happening, and particularly one of my frustrations with this is that if you want to complete the game 100% and you want to complete all the sections in the map, you have to do a bunch of crimes. And if we just go back into the game and just take a look at like the maps here, you can see all these different crime sections at the bottom of the Midtown map that I'm currently hovering over. You have to do 20 of them in this particular section. And if you go to the next one, you also have to do 20 here. You have to do 20 here. You have to do 20 here. Like, you get my point. Like, you have to do a lot of crimes, and it doesn't carry over into these different sections. It is very specific to the sections, and it can get very tedious and annoying to do all of these. These crimes comes in a limited variety, and while fun for the first few attempts, these get very grindy, repetitive, and sadly boring. While a few crimes here and there is fun, when you have to do them 20 times for each section of the map, it loses its entertainment value and comes off as rather boring and uncreative. It tells a story of something that was meant to bloat the game rather than tie it into overall narrative. The same thing happens with the groups of demons and criminal gangs on the top of buildings shooting at you. It takes away from the traversal through the city. Now, we kind of already did take a look at it, but the next section that I wanted to go through is the gameplay part, and I found the gameplay very fun. There's a lot of useful gadgets, as we saw in the brief combat sequence that I had, where you can use all these web impact gadgets or ability to make your enemies float or the web bomb. And I do find that these gadgets are very versatile and actually diverse in the usage of them. With the crimes, you get the opportunity for these real-time events where you have to mash a button. I do find that they break up the repetitiveness of the game, but at the same time, when you've done, like, say, 10, 15, 20 of these, it does get a bit repetitive, no pun intended. There's these faction hideouts where, as you can see here, like here, there is a prisoner camp. You can also do these demon warehouses with some bonus objectives as well. There's also Fisk hideouts as well. What's particularly interesting is these hideouts are essentially just I want to call them a boss rush, in the sense that you get a lot of enemies thrown at you, kind of similar to other games where you go through every kind of boss in quick successions. And lastly, with the gameplay part, you're introduced to sort of these science mechanics. If we go to Octavius Industries, you're introduced to two different mechanics. There's a sort of chemistry where you have to do this objective of you have to fill all these different rectangles in a way. So if you just go over there, I don't know if I can do them, but they're all here. Yeah, I can't do them, but you have to match these chemistry parts with each other, as well as another one over here where you have to, from one end to sort of give it power. It's more electrical current kind of way. And these mechanics can also be found throughout the world as you complete. You can see these research stations. There's the data chain. Now, it's been a while since I completed that, so I can't remember the exact one, but you also get the opportunity to do these science mechanics in these research centers. So it's spread nicely around the map. So you get the opportunity to do the mechanics as well outside of the Octavia's labs. Now, for the final section, I wanted to go over the DLC part of it, because this game does have a DLC which is called The City That Never Sleeps, which consists of three different smaller sized DLCs that were released in kind of like an episodic kind of way. With the first being The Heist, which focuses on the Black Cat. Now, I won't go into details with all these DLCs, but I'll just go over them in what the main characters are. We got The Heist, as I mentioned, as well as the Turf Wars, which has the character Hammerhead as sort of like the main character, as well as more interactions with the detective Yuri. The DLC ends off with what's called the Silver Lining, which gives you the opportunity to interact more with Silver Sable, the woman that you're introduced to in this main story as well. As I mentioned, these are smaller sized DLCs, so they take place around the map. There's specific sections of the map that the DLCs take part in and focus on, but these maps, these segments of the maps are different from each DLC, so you won't get locked into one part of the map in all the DLCs. Now, as I mentioned, these are smaller, so they're also quicker to finish. You don't have to do all these repetitive tasks in the same degree to what the main story did. Now, a bit of a pet peeve that I have with these DLCs is that the screwball challenges are horrendous. They are not fun, and the character Screwball is meant, in my opinion, to be a comedic relief, but it comes off as very annoying, as it is a very stereotypical streamer character kind of personification. Comes off as very irritating, and some of the challenges are not really that fun, particularly with the photobomb challenge. The AI of the enemies are kind of weird and doesn't really work that well with the particular timing of the photobomb challenges. Especially in my experience, I've had to do a lot of reruns because I wanted the best score possible. So it can get very annoying with that. Now, for the last part, my overall thoughts is that the game is great. It has a lot of things going for it, which it does really well. It had some few rough edges that could have used a bit of optimization or patching. It is tied together very nicely, and I feel like it's very optimized. I've had a small parts experience with some crashes, which I don't know what happened. It might have been a loading error or whatever happened, but I've had some small experience with crashing. The repetitiveness of the crime, as I mentioned, and tricks during web slinging kind of feels redundant, and it could have been optimized, could have either made the crime requirement less than 20, and perhaps the web slinging in particular with the tricks could have done with a bit of an upgrade. I can't speculate as to why these decisions were implemented in the way they were. It could have been budgetary restraints, or it could have been the upcoming release deadline. It could also have been that Insomniac thought that the amount of crimes were very fitting because of the city being pushed into a very chaotic state towards the end of the game story. So it could have been the reason for it. Overall, I really enjoyed my experience with this game. I know that this video is rather late to as to the release of this, since it has been 7 years since it was originally released on the PlayStation, but I did wanted to share my own thoughts and opinions on the game. I don't really have anything more to say, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to creating many more videos taking a look at different games, as well as what's happening in the industry, and I hope you look forward to it. So if you want to stick around, please consider subscribing and liking the video. It really helps me out, and it helps me know what you want to see from me. And yeah, I think that's it. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.